Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I'm your host, Cameo. I'm joined today by my husband, Greg, as my co host, and we have a very special guest that we are super, super excited to introduce. He is affectionately known as the Wanz. He is a voice that you have heard and maybe didn't know until this moment that you've heard him. But we are pleased to introduce and welcome Mr. Michael Wansley to our show today. Hi there.
Hello. Hello. What voice would you like me to be today? I could be,
Well,
from London if you like.
that one is good too, but I think is it taboo to ask you to pop off?
No, it's never taboo. It always makes me smile. But
Yeah.
what she's alluding to, audience, is you've probably heard this, but if you're looking at this the first time you've ever seen the guy look you in the eye and go, I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a come up. This is fucking awesome.
Woo!
Yeah, thank you so much. That was amazing. I don't know how we can, we can end the show there. Like, you're just so stellar. But actually, there's so much more that you bring beyond just singing that hook that we had the privilege and honor of hearing firsthand. We met you about a month ago at a Recording Academy event in Seattle and at London Bridge Studio. And I fell in love with your tenacity and your character and your charisma. And so I really am so grateful that you have joined us today to share your story with our listeners and beyond. You never know who's listening. So your story is unique that you have, and I'll turn it over to you to let you take it because you know it better than anyone, but you have been a lifelong musician and the thrift shop, it's thrift shop, right? Thrift shop, not thrift store, thrift shop.
I know,
song.
I did the same thing.
It is the same thing, but
no, I did the same thing.
Oh, did you?
Oh God. Oh yeah.
So many times probably, right? Yeah. But that came later in life and kind of as a surprise. So if you can kind of start with that, like, how did that opportunity come about? And was it something that you hadn't ever anticipated?
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, to get to that story, I have to start with this one. It's October of 1967. I'm leaving my classroom to get my coat out of my cubby because I'm going to go walk home from elementary school, which is across the street in Anchorage, Alaska. My dad is stationed at Fort Richardson. And two kids kind of corner me, and one of them is telling the other he can sing. The other one says, I don't believe you, blah, 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 blah. And they start asking me about songs, and I sing it. Ask me about another song, and I sing it. We start walking down the hall, and those two kids become like 3 or 5 kids. And all of a sudden, the titles just keep coming. I keep singing. We leave the hallway. We're out in the schoolyard, and there's big fluffy flakes. When it's warm snow, the big fluffy flakes are coming down. It's Alaska. And the songs are just, every time somebody would say one, I would say, I would just sing it, right? And this was going on for a little bit, and I hear my name from behind me. And I turn around, and it's my mom, dressed like June Cleaver. I mean, the whole red and white checkered apron, fuzzy slippers, wide dress, the whole thing, running across the schoolyard, gets to me and she says, Michael, are you okay? Because she saw me out the window. She thought I was in a fight.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, Mom, I'm just singing. And that's the very first thing I remember about my whole life. That's what I call the point where I became self-aware.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing I remember about me is that. Now, from there were a couple of other little performance things. And I had an older brother and an older sister. And I slept on the top bunk and my brother slept on the lower bunk. And he was in high school and had his own DJ show, kind of American Bandstand for high school. And my sister was the go-go dancer. And in '68, my dad settled in Tacoma, just south of Tacoma, Washington, at what is now Joint Base Lewis McChord, but it used to just be Fort Lewis. And in second grade, my first day of school was standing almost in the middle of the class because I didn't have a desk. And I was small, and I was skinny, and I was kind of shy. and everybody was staring at me. And that led to 6 years of being picked on, made fun of, belittled, a lot of crap. I used to get my ass handed to me on the daily. 3rd and 4th grade were really hard. And the instigator was my mom's best friend's son. So it's like I had no defense, right? Because I could tell my mom, and then she'd tell, oh, Michael, and his name is Michael too. And he played piano. And so he was musical and he sang too. It was like we were in competition because our moms were in competition. It was weird.
Sure.
It was just really weird. But he was the instigator, and because his mom was a teacher, you know, he could do no wrong. And I felt like I could do no right, because my dad would say, well, why didn't you defend yourself, son? And my mom would say, you need to turn your other cheek there, baby. You can't just go and fight like that. And so it's like I could never really please either one of them. That went on for a long time. But the reputation of me being a singer just grew and grew and grew. And by the time I got to 7th grade, it was real choir time. And my choir teacher, I mean, this is the first adult who was like, you're really good. I hope you stick with this, because you can be really good. Which, coming from someone other than my parents or other than my mom, was good. It was great. Yeah. So that guy actually taught me how to read music, and I learned 4-part harmony and I learned what all things were called. And that handed me off to high school in 10th grade. And I had another guy who introduced me to a college conductor. And I went to this summer music camp at one of the local universities for a week, for 3 summers. And it was amazing, because it's one of those things where you take kids from everywhere and you put them in a fishbowl, and, you know, they do what they do. Right. We had a week to learn all this stuff, but it was validation that I actually knew what I was doing, right? Because all these kids from other places, you know, some of them didn't know as much as I did, and I didn't know as much as they did. And some of us, you know, still keep, well, there's a few of us that still keep in touch. And that was almost 50 years ago. No, it's more like 45 years ago. Anyway, so then I left and went to college, and I had to go to college I chose to go to college on the other side of the state, just over the mountains, because Washington has a mountain range in the middle of it. And in this little tiny place called Ellensburg, where I did not know that Central Washington University at that time was a hotbed for jazz in the country. But I didn't know this. And when I got there, I thought, you know, George Benson doing Give Me the Night, that was jazz, because Quincy Jones came from jazz and he produced it. And Chuck Mangione was jazz. Yeah. I really had never heard of like Ella Fitzgerald and Ellington and Basie and all those people.
Sure.
But for the next 7 years, or for the next 6 years, I was in the #1 vocal jazz group and learned a lot about how things work when it comes to music. Then I moved to Seattle in '86, got a job at Tower Records when they used to still have those. And I worked there for 3 years and got immersed in the Seattle music scene. So I used to hang out with all the musicians and stuff. You may have heard of some of their bands: Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains.
Yeah, they played my 27th birthday party before anybody knew who they were. And, you know, to this day, I haunt the drummer because he was so loaded he couldn't get out of the car. And I had to talk him into coming into play. But that was 4 months before their first record came out, and they went away, and they blew up.
Yeah.
So those are the people that I hung out with, because the music community here was very, very tight. There weren't a lot of differences. Everybody went to each other's practices and shows, and we all went to the same parties and hung out at the same bars and whatnot. So, I had a band, and it was somewhere between Living Color and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was playing funk bass with my thumb and singing, but I had to teach these other guys who were basically rock musicians how to put them into kind of an R&B type feel, but more of a funk type feel. They'll play straight ahead rock. One guy was a blues player, and the other guy was a rocker, and then the drummer was just a pile driver. And so I put funk around it, and it's like, wow, people had never heard anything like that. So that band went and nothing happened. 5 years, nothing happened. Got into another band a couple of years later, kind of the same vein, and it went a little farther, but really nothing happened. So that led to about another 20 years of just band after band, and thinking, oh, this is going to make some kind of impression, and we're going to get a crowd, and then we'll make a record and people will buy it, and then we'll get some opening gigs, and then maybe, we can open for semi-nationals and then nationals. But that never happened. And at about 2008, I realized that there's no one out there on the radio or in videos that is my age. There are no new artists that look like me or sound like me. That's bad. Because all my life I'd been told, you're really good. You're going to be famous. I bet you're going to be famous. Yeah. And I believed him.
Sure.
So that was like the first real bout with real serious depression that needed meds and a shrink in the whole 9 yards to keep me from doing something bad.
Sure.
And about 2 years later, I came out of it thanks to a Facebook friend, because Facebook was new then. And a guy said, we don't do this to be famous. We do it because we love it. And he was right. Because I can't think of a day that I didn't do something musical. And I can't think of a time when I was doing something musical that I wasn't happy. Okay, 1 + 1 = 2. I'm a genius. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
So I did. And earlier in that decade, I met a guy he had his own like Wu-Tang group up here. And one of his artists asked me to sing a hook for him and was floored. And so the other 8 guys in the group also wanted me to do hooks for them. And up until 2003, 2005, I was known as the Nate Dogg of the Northwest, or the North End of Seattle. Now I had to tell that part to tell this part. So it's May of 2012, and I'm in my last band that I think I would ever be in. And it's, a blue-eyed soul band, and we're doing originals and covers, and it's pretty fun. We play like twice a month. And I'm still writing, and I'm teaching myself the recording process, and I'm working a day job, which I've always worked a day job. And I got into testing software in 2000 and was working out at Microsoft for 10 years. And then I got another job testing for a medical company. So here I am, minding my own business. I get a phone call at like half an hour after midnight. And this is a guy who usually texts me or emails me, never calls. So I thought something was wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, Wanz. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm watching Nightline and surfing Facebook. Are you down for a session? Well, I'm always down for a session. So about an hour and a half later, he had taken me to this place, and I'm walking in and I'm shaking hands with Ben Haggerty and Ryan Lewis. And we started, getting acquainted. They had never heard of me, which I was kind of butthurt about, because I'd been in and out. I'd been floating around the music industry in the town for 25 years.
Decades. Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a lot of shows, knew all the club owners, knew all the bartenders, knew a lot of the security guys. How do these guys not know who the fuck I am?
Right.
But then again, I didn't know who they were either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's fair. So after that, Ryan starts playing the beat, and Ben is like, he's on a steno pad and he's telling me the words. And so in the background is and Ben's like, yeah, I'm gonna pop some tags. I'm got $20. He's saying it in rhythm, right? And the first thing that popped out of my mouth is, I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got 20, and they both lit up, right? Put me in the booth, stack it up 4 times. Great, fucking awesome. Okay, great. Come back out. This is the bridge. Blah 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Go back in, stack it up. Boom. 45 minutes later, they're cutting me a check and I'm leaving. And nobody thought anything of it. I was just happy because this is a rap guy paying me with a check.
Cool.
Stop the press. Up here, they were all cash only guys because they were running girls, running drugs, running cars, running stolen goods. They were all gangsters. So fast forward to July, Ryan calls me. Hey, we're doing a video for Thrift. You want to be in it? All right, sure, why not? His manager comes down and picks me up from work and takes me to a store that is now gone called Leroy's Menswear. And that is where the infamous creamsicle suit was chosen. And then up in the center of the city, in a neighborhood called Capitol Hill, go downstairs to this bar, and they just got through filming. You know, he's got the fur coat on and the track with the camera rolling on it. It was I'd never seen anything like it before. It was pretty pro. I didn't know a soul except for Ben and Ryan, Ben's girlfriend Trisha, and one other person. So I met the director, and blah 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 blah, and we get acquainted. They got to set up the shot because now that I'm here, we're going to do this. And so a DJ is there, and he's playing music, and so we're all dancing, and I'm just trying to, like, because I'm 51 years old. Okay, no one else is anywhere near that. Okay, they're all in like their 20s and early 30s, and I'm fish out of water trying to fit in like I do.
That's what I was going to ask is, do you remember how you were feeling specifically in that moment?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
nervous, excited, fish out of the water. Like,
I remember, you know, we're going to do your shot next, so you might as well get changed. So I go upstairs, and I'm in the bathroom, I'm getting changed, and I'm taking a selfie in the mirror and going, I have no idea what this is, but here we go.
Yeah.
I look good, right?
I look
Because
good.
I like the suit. And so, you know, so I come back down and, you know, did all that dancing. They got the shot set up. So I stood on my mark, and I'm looking around. I'm going, so who's going to be in the shot with me? No, we're just going to film you singing the hook. Okay. All right, playback. I'm gonna, oops, hold on. Okay, take two. Okay, take three. And that didn't go very well. After the fourth trip, Ben sticks his head out from behind the director. He goes, you don't remember the words, do you? No. Said, man, I'm used to going in, doing studio work, and then I never see the person again. This is the first time I've ever been like gotten a call back. What the hell?
Sure.
So, which is hilarious now. You know, I got done with doing that. I only did like 5 takes, and 2 of those 5 were with Ben, right? And the next day we were going to film out on a lake, and I remember that was going to happen. But the funniest thing of that day that I'll never forget, everybody's done. They're tearing down the equipment upstairs at the bar, having a burger, sitting next to one of the extras. And he looks at me and he goes, so, man, you did really good today. And I go, cool, thanks. I really hope this turns into something. And he leans back in his chair and he goes, you really have no idea what's about to happen, do you? I'm like, no. And he just started laughing. How prophetic that was. Along comes August 28th, which is the video premiere party. And I'm dressed in this suit, and we're in this other bar premiering it. And, you know, it looks great. I'd never seen anything. I'd never seen anything that looked that great. Never heard anything that sounded that great, especially anything that I was on.
Sure.
You know, I'd been talking to Ben before, and he's like, wait, you don't have a Twitter account? You need to get a Twitter account. So the first time they play the video, I'm trying to put Twitter on my BlackBerry.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Send him a tweet, and got it all set up, and great. He comes by and goes, man, that looks really good. What'd you think? And I go, I heard it, but I didn't really see it because I was setting up my Twitter. In fact, I tweeted you. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to play it again. And he disappears, and I look, Macklemore. You should follow at Wanz. He sings the hook on Thrift Shop. It's like 300. I'm like, what to the absolute fuck is this?
What just happened?
Yes, what is going on right now? And then the next day when the video dropped, I'm at work hitting refresh on my computer, and I've got 2 screens, and the count is like moving at a clip. Like within the first hour, it had like almost 10,000 hits. I was like, what is happening right now?
Right.
So it was then that I thought, Macklemore, huh? He's got some other videos. I should take a look at those.
Who is this guy?
So I looked at Other Side and Wings and My Oh My. I remember that one. I was at the baseball game that he had performed that song. Cool. And then I saw this one called Victory Lap. Now, Victory Lap was from 2011, and it was a lot of traveling, road footage. They're in a van. They're going all these places, right? One of the shows that they're doing is at the main Coliseum here in Seattle. Sold out crowd. He's standing on the front of the stage. There's nothing but lights from cell phones. And I looked at that, and I leaned back in my chair at work, and oh, that's not good. Oh, that's really not good. Because I kind of just figured out who this guy was. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a couple of weeks later, I sent an email to their manager and asked them if I could go and do some dates with them. They were going to do 9 dates that I could, that's how much PTO I could do. Great.
Sure.
So they said yes. And on October 11th of 2012, we did our first show in Portland, which was amazing. And then the next show was at WAMU Theater, which is the convention center that's connected to the football stadium here. Right. 7,500.
It's just a small crowd.
Just a right.
Yeah.
Portland was 1,100.
Yeah.
Right. I'm walking on stage for sound check and it's like, there's a really big screen over there. Oh, look, there's a really big screen way over there on the other side of the stage. Oh, what is this? There's a little box and it's got orange tape around it. And there's a little flame on it. What is this? It's the pyro.
Yeah, stay away from that.
So we're not going to be going anywhere near that.
Right.
To the center of the stage, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
And that was the first taste of what was about to happen. And it was electric. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen crowd that reacts like that. I'd never seen performers like that before. And I was just a piece of it, just trying to like keep my head above water. And when it was over, my college roommate and his girl were there. And at the end, I met them at the security barrier and he and I hugged each other and we were both crying because he remembers when I got into my first band and I was playing bass and he'd been a big supporter for a long time. And we both knew what this was. This was the real deal.
Right.
So a couple of shows later, Ben hits me up after the show and he's like, we really like what you're doing. We want you to join the tour. I don't know what that means, but I think I need to get more days off.
Yeah.
I never heard back from my boss. So the next show after my last day was supposed to be at the Fillmore in San Francisco, which to me was like Mecca. I remember being 9 years old and listening to live broadcasts on AM radio, live from the Fillmore. Bill Graham presents, that place was not. I mean, it was weird because, you had to load in your own stuff up 3 flights of stairs in the back. So we loaded all the stuff in and then got a tour of the place. And there are posters on the wall for every group that has played there, every group. So from blues to R&B, soul, there's Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, the Cowsills, Jimi Hendrix, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Rare Earth, Chicago. I was stunned, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at all these names that I'd been listening to since I was a kid. And it came time for sound check, and I'm standing in the middle of the floor looking around. There's a sold out show at the Fillmore. And at that moment, everything became real. And the emotion hit me, and I broke down and just started crying. Because all my life, I'd heard, you're going to be famous. You're going to be this. And this was my first validation that it was actually happening.
Right.
Show went off like magic. It was so cool. It was so cool. Next day, I have the tour van and I'm trying to find a credit union so I can deposit my very first tour check. And my phone rings and it's my boss. Well, we thought you were going to be back. And I said, well, you know what? For a guy my age, an opportunity like this is probably never, ever going to happen again. So I got to stay out here. And I walked away from $85K a year and benefits and stock options and the whole 9 yards.
Did they know what you were doing?
I told them, but they didn't really know what I was doing until about a month later.
Yeah.
Because, this was in October. By Christmas of 2012, everybody knew.
Yeah.
Everybody knew.
You undeniable at that point.
It was pretty hard to get away from.
Yeah.
And it got worse after the beginning of the year, Yeah, there are so many stories. We don't have enough, there probably aren't enough days in the week for all the stories that I have.
Sure. That's the one, though, that brought me to tears, and it brought me to goosebumps today as you told it, because I can't imagine what that must have felt like to be standing there, absorbing all of that energy and taking a look around at all of those artists and all of the history there and realizing that you're the person that's standing there that's going to be on that wall next.
And keep in mind, I grew up on the radio. I listened to the radio and could learn a song in 2 or 3 listens. I learned about music from listening to the radio because back then you know, you could hear the Mamas and the Papas, and then you'd hear Chicago, and then you'd hear Stevie Wonder or the Four Tops, and then you'd hear Merv Griffin, something weird, you know what I mean? John
Sure.
Denver. They played all this stuff. It was like one big melting pot. They played everything.
Yeah.
So I learned everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so here I was, you know, by the time it got to February, we're going to be on Saturday Night Live. What?
Yeah.
We found this out when we were in Australia. And, you know, so in Australia, it's only February in Australia. Yeah, we're doing a show in Melbourne, and 2 Chainz walks out on stage during Thrift Shop. Okay. You know, what is he gonna do? Because this is my part.
Yeah,
Brother,
right. What are you doing here?
So he comes out there, and I was like, I'm singing my part, and I'm about to touch one of his chains, and my brain goes, "Oh, I don't think so." It's like, okay, I'm not touching that. So, but after that show, we got, you know, I got the first plaque. It's back there on the wall. It was, you know, 7 times platinum. Yeah, Thrift Shop was 7 times platinum in Australia. I was, you know,
yeah.
Saturday Night Live then, you know, about 3 weeks later was another amazing thing.
Wow.
I'd only been to New York once. We were on a morning show. Like,
so you were working and
I quit.
Yeah, but I mean, before that, before you got the call to go do this and before you realized what was happening, is it fair to say that you had kind of like, you mentioned depression and working through that because you had kind of realized like, you know, this is probably the last band that I'm going to do this with. Like, is it fair to say that at that point you had kind of quote unquote given up, moved on and said, this is just not in the cards for me like I thought it might be. I've got to accept that this is what my life looks like now.
Especially having friends like Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament and Jerry Cantrell and all the cats in those bands, Kim Thale. I mean, we used to hang out listening to like New Order in a bar on Thursday nights after rehearsals, right?
Sure.
We used to hang out. Those are my drinking buddies, right?
Right.
They were out doing what they were doing. I didn't know the guys in Nirvana. I knew people who knew the guys in Nirvana.
Yeah, right.
And that's, you know, I was trying to hang out with those people so I could, like, you know, hi, I could sing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a song called Get Lucky that I wrote, probably it was in 2010, so it was a couple of years before, maybe 2009. I had to write this song because it was where I was at. The hook is, keep putting faith in front and believe the best is yet to come. You'll see, nothing in this life comes completely free, but every once in a while you just get lucky. Now, little did I know that 2 years later, I was actually able to film a video for that with all the people that I used to work with in the office. And that video is on my YouTube page. That's what I was doing. I leave my place, little tiny apartment, go to work. I'm on the bus, working on beats on the bus, get to work, do my testing, leave work, working on beats on the bus, get home, come into my lab.
Yeah.
Watch TV, go to bed.
Yeah.
That's basically my life, right? Rehearse, you know, go play a show every once in a while with that other band, but that was my life.
Yeah.
Right.
So you were still doing it because you loved it. You enjoyed it.
I was doing it to teach myself the recording process. I was writing my own music, and thanks to Facebook, I was reconnecting with all the people that I had known since 2nd grade, which was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of people. For the longest time, I was really happy. I had over 3,000 Facebook friends, but I knew every single one of them. I can tell you how I met them, right? Because they were just people from school, college, and then work, and then other bands, right? So I knew a lot of people. But man, doing Get Lucky was amazing. I mean, I try to perform this song whenever I'm like speaking to kids, because the bridge in the middle it's like the only time I ever rap. But sometimes I can't believe that I wrote these words. Sure. Remember, nothing's over till it's over, and nothing's over till you say. Just because this didn't work out don't mean that will surely fail. I can't say what's going to happen. I didn't come here to read your cards. I'm not here to hand you a tissue just because your damn life got hard. But I will say that anything is possible if you have the strength to try. If you keep reaching, there's a good chance someday you'll surely touch the sky. Chances will keep coming sure as the sunrise every day. You can choose to sit and watch them pass, or you can grab what's yours to take. So have faith. And I was living that. It was
Beautiful.
so weird for me to shoot that video because it was like a prophecy.
Yeah, right.
It was so weird. And to this day, you know, I say that part in the middle and I still get goosebumps.
And I have them all over me again.
Can't believe
Again.
it. But
yeah.
What I've learned from 2.5 years of touring before Thrift Shop kind of died out and they weren't going to work with me again. So the ride was over. The ride was over. And I came back to earth and got another job testing software. And
Yeah.
and tried. I've been trying for the last 10 years to figure, okay, what does this mean? I have a Grammy Award and a Diamond Award, 2 statues that 98% of the musicians on the planet don't have.
Right.
And I have no idea what I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm right back where I started from. Only I have now this really killer resume item that has over like 1.8 billion views.
Yeah.
Well, and you've made a huge mark on the hearts of so many people, and that has now translated into, as you told us when we met, and then you've just kind of mentioned here, speaking to kids.
I have a friend who has a nonprofit down in Olympia, and it's called the Bridge Music Project. And what he does is he gathers kids together every quarter, divides them into teams. They pick a hip hop song, and he teaches them how to express themselves via hip hop.
Mm.
So they write their own verses to a song that they like, and then he runs them through the recording process. And then at the end of 8 weeks, they perform. So, you know, every quarter he has me come down and I tell him the story I just told you.
Yeah.
And the lesson that I learned when I was touring, every show I would go out and look at the kids in line because it blew me away. I'd never seen anything like it before. And I'd get into conversations with them. And the things that they were going through, regardless of the nationality, were all the things that were going around in my head.
Sure.
Being older than everyone else.
Right.
A lot of fear. Am I really that good? I don't understand this, right?
Right.
So now I go down and I tell these kids this, and what a saying that I adopted on the road is, if you do something that makes you happy, and especially if it makes somebody else happy, never, ever, ever stop doing it, because you just never know where it could take you.
Yeah.
Which had been my experience, right?
Yes.
So
right.
It doesn't matter if you cook, write, draw. It doesn't matter what you do if it makes you happy, and it's not illegal. If it makes you happy, and especially if it makes somebody else happy, keep doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got laid off from my tech job in January, which is the first time in my life, other than touring, that I've been without a job. Mm-hmm. I've always worked. The first time I wasn't working, I was touring the world and doing exactly what I thought I was put on the planet for.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's almost November, so for the last 11 months, I've been going, I don't know what I'm doing.
Sure.
It's not like I'm recording songs, but now I'm 62 years old. And I look out at the industry, not a soul out there who looks and sounds like me, unless they had a band in the 80s, like Charlie Wilson. He's the only example. There's nobody out there. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Not the hip hop lane. Not the rock lane is filled with guys that are all their royalties have run out, so they've got to put out a new record. I was wearing a shirt yesterday that I went and saw Rick Springfield. He was playing a show on his 72nd birthday.
Right.
And I was there, and it's okay, I get it. I'm gonna have to do this for the rest of my life because this is what I do. Everything else is kind of a side job. But boy, you give me a microphone and you put me in front of people, something's going to happen.
It's magic.
Something always happens. I on the road, it's like I coined the phrase, I was a ham before there were pigs. I do not mind showing off.
Yeah. I love that. I love that about you, and the essence and the energy that you bring to a conversation. In the one time that we met you in person, you just light up the room, and here you're so articulate. And I think that's so important to circle back to, is that you don't really know what you're doing. And some days that's really difficult. Other days it's okay, because
it's ironic. I was listening to the podcast where you were talking about, we're going to do this recording project up in Seattle. And I started laughing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay. And I mean, I tell kids now, you got to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You got to watch that movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's a great movie, yeah.
Well, I mean, no, because he got it right.
Yeah.
The mantra of that movie is life moves pretty fast. If you're not paying attention, you might miss it.
Yeah, that's right.
So if I hadn't have been paying attention, I wouldn't have answered the phone. If I hadn't answered the phone, I wouldn't have gone to do the session. And if I hadn't gone and done the session, all my dreams wouldn't have come true.
Right. Alignment, timing.
Sidebar. So I told you, about the Fillmore, right? When I broke into tears. Well, my first job here was working at a Tower Records. Well, I reconnected with my boss from Tower Records about 7 or 8 years ago. And last summer, he said, I heard an interview with you and it struck me and I wanted to get together and have lunch. So we were sitting at lunch and he says, yeah, you were saying something about the Fillmore. And I told him the story that I told you. Well, it just so happens he had a cutting board that was made from the original floor of the Fillmore. And he gave it to me because of that story.
That's beautiful.
This is amazing. It's still in plastic because I'm not going to use it.
Right. That's crazy.
You never know who you touch, who you affect, who is listening, who is watching. And trust me, I've tried to pay attention to that stuff on purpose.
Sure.
It'll drive you nuts. Always worried about how you look, what you say, what you do. Screw that.
Yeah.
I want to be a public speaker and I want to go remind kids that, you know what? There's only one of you. One. You're the only one, which gives you license to do whatever this one wants to, because you can't control anything else. My dad used to say, son, there's only two things you have to do: die and make decisions. I don't recommend the former, so you better get damn good at the latter.
Yes.
And he's right, because making choices is the one thing you're going to do for the rest of your life, even when you don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's simple.
And the choices that you make are what make you as a person, time and time and time again.
Exactly. And, the more that I paid attention to how other people lived their life, I'm guilty of doing the comparison thing, which is what always drives me into depression. The answers aren't there.
Right.
And, on a daily basis, I have to remind myself the only person I'm in competition with is myself. My job today is to just do a little better than I did yesterday.
100%.
That's it. Doesn't matter what it is, because, we're humans, intelligent beings. You ever notice that there's only one species of human on the planet? Whole lot of birds, whole lot of bugs. Humans, one.
Yeah.
And when you start looking around at like the Starbucks or out at a stoplight, and you look at all the people, you start looking, everybody, there's only one species of, everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
And they all look different, and they're all doing the same thing. Living life. They're doing whatever it is they do. Right? I got this concept when I was landing. We were landing in Berlin. I'll never forget this, because I'm looking at a car and I imagined what it would be like being in the car looking out at the plane, right? People in the car, people in the plane, people in the town, people in the country, the hemisphere.
Right.
The numbers get really big, really fast. But everybody is a little different, just a little bit. But if you go up instead of down, looking at, oh, you have brown hair. Oh, you have those color eyes. Oh, if you start going up and it's like, oh, now you can see everyone. And yeah, they have a nose in the middle of their face, two eyes, two ears. Okay, they're human, right?
Yeah.
You go up a little farther, you can't tell whether they're male or female. You go up a little farther, and then they all look the same. If you think about it, we're all one people.
100%.
I wrote a song about that in the early 90s. I just haven't redone it yet.
Well, maybe that's next.
Well, I'm busy right now, okay?
No pressure, no pressure, no demands on my behalf.
The second verse is great. You just like no one you know. You're simply skin and bone, yet all you show is what comes between us. The stares, the silence, you emphasize the difference. Is this what God meant by love thy neighbor?
I mean, it's very relevant, especially right now.
Right now.
Oh my goodness. Like very profound.
I have another song. I just pushed it out last week. I forgot that I had it. And it's called When If Not Now. And it asks the same bloody question. Who's going to make the change? If not us, then who?
Right.
Let's start here. Let's start now. Can you tell me when, if not now?
If everyone would adopt that as their own personal mission and start from within, that would spread like wildfire. It's the resistance to the idea that I have to control myself and that I cannot control the external, just my response to the external, that keeps us, I think, from progressing as a people. I just want to do what you do, Wanz. I want to wake up every day and I want to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday, and every hour for that matter.
But it gets complicated. As soon as I open my eyes, okay, that's one of my senses, and I check the other four. All five senses work. Great, I got a shot.
That's right.
Because I know that as soon as I realize that I am awake, I know that there's someone who isn't.
Yeah.
And being here, living is like lotto. You got to participate. You got to be present to win.
Yeah.
But you got no shot. If you put things in your way, if you put dope in your way, booze in your way, your own mental disability in your way, you know, disabled folks are great because they don't know. I mean, there was this old movie. Remember the old movie Roadhouse that had Jeff Healey in it, the guitar player? I got to meet him once, and it was amazing. Everybody says he's playing guitar wrong. It's laid on his lap. And I'm going, how is that wrong? I mean, the guy's a kick-ass blues player.
Right. It's our own judgment that wants to qualify things.
He does what's right for him.
Yeah.
I guess Hendrix was wrong too. He played with his guitar upside down.
Right?
Maybe we're all wrong.
The first time we went to Australia, when we got off the plane, there were four guys, they're like 14, 15, waiting. I don't know how they got our flight information, but they were waiting and trying to show us where to go. And they were just fans, right? And when we got out of baggage claim, they're like, can I carry your bag? And I'm going, no, man, that's stupid. And this kid got really pissed. What do you mean stupid? I really loved it. I love Macklemore. I love Thrift Shop. And I love this and blah, 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 blah. And I sat there and I listened to him. And when he got done laying into me, I said, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. There's no way that I should decide what you like and don't like and how you show what you like and don't like. That's not my job.
Sure.
Which is the thing that people forget.
Yeah.
Religious people forget. Political people forget. A lot of people forget. I tell kids today, you know, you all have a superpower. And we all do. You know what it is? Choice. We're the only ones who make choices for ourselves. So I told my kids, you know, gather as much information as you can, make the best decision you can, and then stand by the result, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Because that's the process that's going to repeat over and over again. And they go, you know, typical teenagers, they're like, oh, sure. And I go, oh, really? You think you always knew how to tie your shoe? You think you always knew that you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Right.
You think you always didn't like broccoli? These are the choices that kids have power over. And once they realize that they are autonomous with most, you know, they're learning, right? As parents, the best we can do is help them learn. And
we're all learning. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm learning from everything that you're saying right now. And the world needs people. We as a people need people like you who empower others and challenge others to really take ownership, to make choices, to pursue things that feel improbable or impossible, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. What I do know, and you know, I can only talk about the thing that I know the best, which is me. But there are a lot of similarities between my experience and a lot of the kids that I talked to in 2.5 years outside of those bloody shows. And I learned a lot. I tweeted about it a lot. That's why it's in a book. You can find it on Amazon. # the Book of Wanz. These are sayings that I would tweet out. Some of them are phrases that my dad gave me. Some of them are things that I just thought of in my encounters. Some are things that I just came to on my own. I'll never forget the girl in Warsaw she didn't have enough money for the show. It's breaking my heart. So I took her into sound check. And we were talking. I told her, you know, you are much more than you tell yourself. Oh, I don't know, Wanz. I mean, I don't know. We don't have thrift shops here. Oh, Well, why don't you start one? She never thought of that. Yeah, go get some of your old clothes, some of your friends' old clothes, and sell them. That's what it is.
Right.
Right. And I've got video of her. I think it's still up on my YouTube. She's standing, she's watching the sound check. I'll never forget her. Just to see her standing in the middle of this empty hockey rink. For her, it's a dream come true because she loved Macklemore. And well, here she was watching all the rehearsals before the show. But see, it's little things like that, right? Opening the door for someone, asking them if they're all right. When's the last time you looked at a person who was begging for change and go, yo, you okay? Because very rarely here in Seattle do they say, no, man, I'm totally fucked up, man. Usually they say, yeah, I'm all right today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's difficult to have open and vulnerable conversations. I think people are afraid of judgment and afraid of not being okay. And I think that in my experience, similarly to what I believe you're saying, if I'm capturing this correctly, we're all going through something that's similar. Like we've all experienced similar things, change the variables, change the details, but we've all experienced similar things on this journey of life and where we are. And if we're open and we're paying attention, we can learn from each other and we can teach others just by being kind and aware and recognizing that we are all interdependent upon each other.
Nobody does this alone. Nobody lives alone. Right. You can feel alone. Yeah. You can look alone. And nobody's ever really alone. And that whole thing, you mentioned the J word. Newsflash, you are going to get judged. Judgment is going to happen. You do it all the time. That's right. Everyone does it. The question is can you tell the difference between the judgment that comes from outside versus the judgment that comes from inside? That's the first step. Once you figure out where it's coming from, then you can think about what it actually is saying and evaluate that. Yeah. But most people internalize the things that they hear from the outside, not realizing that when it comes to you, you have the power, the choice. You have the choice of what to do. Yes, 100%. I learned something so much from all three Matrix movies are how to become a good human being. All of them. Yeah. The first one is all about Neo, realizing that he's the one. That's a self-awareness. You are somebody. You're not just Mr. Anderson. You're somebody, right? With your own individual strengths, weaknesses, etc. The second one is about choice and the problem that choice creates. You could be right, you could be wrong, but you still have to make a choice. Like Rush, remember that Rush song? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. That's right. Yeah. Fascinating line. Love that. And then the third one, everything that has a beginning has an end. Yeah. So that means if something is started, it has an end. That makes it a process. A process is, well, go to the grocery store, walk down the cake aisle, pick up a box, turn it over, and what does it say? Directions. Yeah. Now, go to something else in the store, pick up the box or the bag and see if it has directions. Find the thing that doesn't have directions. I dare you. And yes, I've done this before. The reason I did it was because the clues are everywhere, what to do and how to do it. If you're looking for them. Yeah. But you got to know where you are in the process. Yeah. So that you can tell when you're closer to the beginning than the end or closer to the end than the beginning. I told my youngest kid a couple years ago, 1 week don't make no month and 1 month don't make no year. So all you got to do is get through this one. You got to get through this day.
And it sure feels like it. It sure feels like it in the moment.
What?
Like what? It feels like, this day makes my week or this week makes my month. Sometimes you can get so sucked into what you're feeling in the moment that you lose all rationale. You lose the ability to say like, just for right now, this is where I am, or just for today, I'm going to choose not to do this, or one day at a time, for example, as a mantra, right?
I was just about to go there because I was guilty of future tripping and deciding what my life was supposed to be. It was supposed to be A, B, and C. And if it didn't, then I got pissed off at the world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I got pissed off at the world, the only way to like distract me from it was to get loaded and I'd drink.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I haven't drank for 24 years and change, it took me a while to figure this out. But I had a guy tell me once, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. So all we really have is today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift, which is why we call it the present.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Nuclear explosion.
That's right.
But I mean, that's something that everybody can understand. And once perspective is the key. It's not what you see or hear, it's how you see or hear it.
That's right.
You're the only one who can question how you see and hear things, how you understand things, because your understanding may be slightly different from somebody else's.
Oh, and it usually is. I mean, no one's perspective or thought process or, no two people are the same in that way.
Oh, yeah.
I think as an artist, I've always been a musician. I'm a classically trained pianist. I can play Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and Chopin right now. But yeah, right. But ask me to play G, C, and D, and I'm like, panic. What do you mean G, C, and D? Right. And that's my judgment of what I see as possible, of what I see as hard and difficult. Jamming, not my thing. But that's because that's the story I've told myself since I was a little girl, learning how to play classical music perfectly to a metronome in front of judges. Right.
We talked about this when you guys were up here.
Yeah, that's right. And being in Seattle.
Yeah, we have that in common. I've got 3 guitars and a bass sitting right over there because I think I can play. Because if I can sing it, I can figure it out. If I can figure it out, I can play it. Now it's just a matter of plugging it into the box, turning the knobs on the box to make it sound like it sounds in my head.
Yes.
Which is what every guitar player does, right?
That's right.
They just started like 40 years ago.
Yeah. It's just being brave enough to show up and do it now.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from our experience in being in Seattle and recording music is that through reading Rick Rubin's book, but also then through Jeff Ott guiding us through this process of saying like, this isn't really for you to judge. This is just for you to create. And then you do with it what you'd like. You put it out into the world, and whatever everyone else's judgment of it isn't really for you. We just look at that as a way to measure whether we're successful or to measure if what we're doing is liked.
The hard part is where we get in each other's way because we have these wonderful devices that we can watch other people who have been doing it maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
And they've gotten opportunities that we haven't gotten. So they've been able to like create things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of amazing for me to look at Taylor Swift now and then think back to 2014 when I actually met her at the Grammys.
Yeah.
Right? When I thought she was God. And she's kind of beyond that now. You know what I mean?
She's transcended for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it freaked me out because, I'm the new cat on the scene and had met Ed Sheeran. He had done a show with us. And so I met him and we kind of had a conversation. Saw him at the ceremony, went over to where he was, hugged, and it's like, oh, Wanz, it's great to see you. And so it's great to see you too. And he goes, well, Wanz, do you know Taylor? And it's Taylor Swift. And I went, hi, Taylor, I'm Wanz. And she goes, I know, I've read about you.
Are you like, oh my God,
oh my God.
Right? Right.
I didn't know what to say. I just said, well, thank you. And it's just one of those moments, right?
Yep.
Everybody has them. They're not as earth-shattering as that. But I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I ask, when I say kids, I mean like teenagers and older. I ask kids, do you remember when you didn't know what 5 times 5 was? And they'll go, yeah, I do. I go, okay. Now, do you remember the first time that you explained how you figured out what 5 times 5 was? And that person that you were explaining to got it. Remember the look on their face? Remember how it made you feel? That's what life is all about. In a nutshell, that is what life is all about. Period. Because we're all learning to do stuff. And when we learn, especially new things, when we learn, there's a difference between learning new things and learning how not to make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
Those are 2 different things. Yeah. But when we're learning how to do new things and we get it, and that feeling that comes over us, that is the feeling that we as a species need to put in each other, inspire it in each other, which is why I want to go into speaking, you know, because
you got a great story though, man. I mean, like you live it every day, so you don't really appreciate it as much as someone that might hear this for the first time. But basically, you know, 51 years old, you could have given up at 39, at 42, at 44 when that band dissolved, and then at 47 when, you know, you're like, fuck it, I'm just, you know, I'm gonna do this. But you just kept the fire going, and then at 51 you had the opportunity, and now you have a Grammy, you have a 10 times platinum record, which is done. I mean, just things that most people, even that are hot in the game now, are never going to achieve. That's an amazing story of inspiration. And like,
well, here's the thing, you know that it is what you are meant for when you cannot stop yourself from doing it.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I can't count how many times I'm just minding my own business, thinking about something else, and somebody goes, "You have a really nice voice," because I'm like humming a song, or I'm doing, you know, I'm doing something, I'm vocalizing in some way, shape, or form. I don't even realize I do it.
Yeah.
Right. When I go grocery shopping, it's over. It's just over, because I will, you know, invariably hear a song that on the PA. I know that song. All I want is to be this close, feel the same. And I got that song stuck in my head for a whole shopping trip. And I'm putting stuff in the bag after ringing it up, and it won't matter now. And the lady goes, "It's been a long time since." The lady next to me, she just looks at me, "It's been a long time since I've heard somebody sing Toad the Wet Sprocket. You do it very well." Oh, you heard that, huh? Okay. Sorry.
There's this book, it's called Big Magic, and I will never capture the essence of the book, but it basically talks about if we're paying attention, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts with other people who share the same sentiment. If we're paying attention, these things keep revisiting. It's when we're resistant to them, or we have excuses or reasons why it won't work, or things that we have to tend to, that we aren't making progress, or we aren't, you know, really embracing what it is that keeps showing up in our life. But you're absolutely right. Like, you can't stop thinking about it. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. It may not always feel like it or make sense, but you're never shy away from that. And you
I am still learning.
that.
I am still learning how to not have expectations. Because there is nothing worse than an unmet expectation.
That's right.
Don't believe me? Put a bag of popcorn in the microwave and cook it for too long. Because you expect that it's going to smell good, and then it does. And then you expect it's going to be done, and when it's done, it didn't smell like it did before. And all of a sudden, it's like, I'm not going to have any popcorn because it's burned. And you go, ew, right? Unmet expectation.
Right.
It's the worst. So
right.
I try not to expect anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any control over anything. I just have a control over how I react to things. But the first thing I got to do, like you said, is pay attention.
Yep. Awareness.
Right?
We face that as parents of teenagers, and I'm sure
Yes,
you
do.
Maybe share the same experience. What I expect isn't always what happens, and I'm the only one who's setting myself up for disappointment or failure with regard to parenting or whatever you're talking about, when I have some idea of how things are supposed to go, instead of just allowing for things and paying attention and making good choices along the way to try to dictate that a little bit, you know, try to make sure that what I'm doing is putting myself in the best position. But
it's the learning. And I mean, you know, I think I told you guys this when you were here and you told me you had teenagers. Don't tell them how to do things. Don't tell anybody how to do things. Ask them why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm so bad at that. I needed to get better at that for sure.
Well,
just the other day, our daughter was trying to do something, and I'm like, let me do it. And I should have totally let her try and let her do it. And
no, you don't let her try. You ask, why? Why are you doing it that way? Because like I said, right? Either she's going to come to the conclusion that you already know because you've been through the experience that it's not going to work the way she's doing it, or she's going to show you a way to do it that you had not thought.
I'm going to learn something.
Right.
An opportunity for self-actualization, self-realization.
Well, I mean, these are little humans that we're talking about. They're
Yep.
learning how to do the things we already learned how to do, which is
Yep.
frustrating as hell, because you sometimes, as a parent, oh, move, let me do it.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
This is something that I thought of. It's the philosophy of an egg. Put an egg on the table. Ask someone what they see. Well, one person will say it's a chicken. Another person will say, I don't know, it's a cake.
Huh.
Another person will say, it's an omelet. No, it's just an egg. What's the lesson? It's the difference between perception and perspective.
Yeah.
Perception is what you see. Perspective is how you see it. And the how you see things is the part that is really interesting, because it's always amazing when you find someone who has the same perspective as you do, looking at exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But until you can respect someone else's perspective as much as you respect your own, as a species, humans haven't got a chance.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
We all think we're right. So if I'm right about my perspective of things, that means you're wrong. Think something different. And it's like, until we can get on the same page
that
about
for
that,
me to be right, or you don't have to be wrong, that we can both be right, or that we
right.
can,
And that's the whole thing. We can both be right. That's it.
right.
It
Period.
has nothing to do with being wrong.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with being right, because
That's right.
what is right for one person may not be right for another person.
That's
for
right.
whatever reason, because they're not the same person. But
They're the same people.
But they are the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend and I used to go to the mall and just watch people and then talk about what they were going to do.
Yeah.
And we would watch and see, because there's patterns, right? Life is cyclical, right? My dad used to say, those lessons not learned in life will be repeated. And he's right.
That's right.
I mean, even at 62 years old, there's things that come up for me, and it's like, I've gotten no better at them than when I was 15 or 16.
But
and it kills me.
Yeah, right. But the ability to recognize that and be aware of it, is in and of itself the first step, right?
Yeah. Well, G.I. Joe said it best. Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Wanz, you are a joy to have a conversation with. You have so much to offer. And that's why I feel so grateful that you're here with us, that we can share this on a platform that's shareable, your story, but beyond that, just who you are as a human being, what you stand for, what your message is, and what your mission is in speaking and reaching children and empowering people from the inside, that then ruminates.
All I want to do is share the knowledge that I have, and which should be everybody's goal. Because if we learn from each other, how bad is that? And for me, the learning never stops. Even at 62, I'm learning how to do things. I'm learning how to do things that I thought I knew how to do when I was 40 or 30 or 20 or 10. There are some things that, 9 years old, I couldn't do them, like boiling eggs. Every once in a while, I go making hard-boiled eggs, and I visit that experiment just to see if I can do it. And I've done it over years and years and years. And sometimes they crack and sometimes they're not done. It's an ongoing process, you see.
That's great.
The learning never stops, ever. Not if you're paying attention.
That's right. Lifelong learners over here.
Oh,
We're currently learning jujitsu, and I'm 40 and Greg's 45. So talk about a lot to learn and a big challenge, but that's what makes me feel alive. And everything that I learn, I can bring into the rest of my world,
Whatever happened to Muay Thai?
Oh, I'm doing that too. I'm going to be a lethal fighter at 40 here real soon. I don't know where or what will happen next for you. And I know that you're, grappling with that a little bit too, but it should definitely be what keeps visiting you. A microphone in your hand, whether it's singing or your musical talent, and not like I'm telling you what to do, but just you have a gift. Like your mom believed in you at an early day.
You're reminding me of how long the journey has been between people like yourself who tell me what they see and what I think in my head, which is what I'm supposed to do, and waiting for those things to align. I didn't get laid off from my job for no reason. Everything happens for a reason.
That's
The
right.
trick is figuring out what that reason is. So this isn't the first time that I've heard what you've said, and I thank you for those words. It's not going to be the last time.
That's right.
But this is also, I'm actually in a position where for the first time, I'm trying to stoke up those fires of faith to take the next step towards that path, to put me in a position that I so want to be in, which is put a microphone in my hand and put me in front of people.
Yeah. In whatever capacity that is, I have no doubt, as I'm sure everyone who knows you has no doubts that that will be an enriching, enlightening, bright gift that you give to the world. So don't ever, your message is to everyone else comes across as don't ever give up, don't ever quit, because you never know what's around the corner, right? At 51 years old. But that's also the message to, as you said, to remind yourself of.
Yeah, when I was first getting sober and I wasn't sure if I could do it, I heard a lot of, hey, don't quit 5 seconds before the miracle, because you just never know. And like I always say, nobody knows what's going to happen next. Nobody can tell the future. Nobody. Because if they could, they'd be rich as hell and they'd own Las Vegas. Hit me up. I have a website, thewanz.com. I'm on all the social medias, but I have a image problem. Some things I'm TEEWANZ, I'm T-Wanz, or just Wanz, or the real Wanz. And I'm trying to like switch because me and Spotify have a problem.
Yeah.
Because I put in Wanz and there's like 4 white people.
And you're like, that's not me.
That's not me.
Well, I will link all of the places to find you in the show notes. And thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your message and your story. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
very
having
much.
me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, and let me know how the project turns out. I'm dying to know.
We will. We're getting ready to upload everything and get it distributed. Yeah. All right. Take care.
Enjoy the rest.
Bye.
Bye now.